Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and every now and then I get people who ask things like, hey, how much actual protein is used from your diet to build new muscle tissue? You know, how much will increasing my protein do for it? Again, how much protein should I be eating? All right, guys, I've got a lot of videos on how much protein you should be eating, but let's really address the question of how much protein from your actual diet contributes to new muscle growth. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked at the answer because this industry doesn't tell people the truth on this. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little crafting, and let's break this down. All right, first of all, people who don't like the longer videos, they just want the cliff notes, they want the answers. Adding extra protein to your diet is unlikely to make any noticeable difference in your muscle gains. I'm going to break down the math why for the people who want to stick around. Just if you're not gaining muscle mass and you're at maintenance, meaning you're not gaining weight, you're not gaining muscle, adding a little bit of calories from anything, particularly carbs, is just as likely to help you gain muscle as anything else. Very, very little dietary protein actually contributes at all towards muscle gains. And I don't want people to think that I'm dissing high protein diets. I eat a pretty large amount of protein myself because I enjoy it and I find it satiating. But that's not the point. So let's go back to these other points about protein intake. This is going to shock some people, but people will say something like, okay, well, how much is actually going to building muscle? Well, I want to know. Well, think about it for a minute. Let's assume that right now, you eat whatever amount of food, X amount of calories. You're not gaining any weight. Or you're gaining a little bit of weight or whatever, that's fine, but you're not gaining muscle. You don't seem to be gaining any muscle with your current intake, and you want to know what you need to add to your diet to start gaining muscle. Well, it's unlikely that it's your diet causing it unless, again, you're losing weight. But let's break down how much actual protein goes into new muscle tissue if you are already eating enough protein to keep the muscle that you have. And that's a big difference there. Because if you're keeping muscle tissue, all you're concerned with now is gaining more, meaning you're eating enough calories and enough protein to hold on to what you have. So what would go into building new muscle for someone working out? All right, how much muscle do you think you can gain every month? That's the first question. Sure, we see noobs who gain 15 or 20 pounds occasionally in their first year. It's called noob gains. And after that, people don't gain even another 10 pounds the rest of their life after that, if they gain that much. Because again, I've broken down in pretty much a lot of detail what you can expect for lifetime gains. But let's give you guys a crazy number, like a whole pound of muscle gained every single month. Now, some people will say that doesn't seem like much. Well, a lot of people, that's all they gain on their noob gains. Keep in mind, 20 to 30 pounds of muscle is all the muscle you will gain in your entire life. While lifting drug free, and I've broken down the evidence for that quite a few times already. So, and that's a pure muscle gain. We're not talking about people who gain body fat and all sorts of extra glycogen and water. We're talking about the actual muscle. 20 to 30 pounds. Well, let's assume you could gain a pound of muscle every month. Anyone know how much protein is in there? Well, some people try to go grams and they'll try to see how many grams are in a pound. Well, that's not true. If you actually look at it, human muscle tissue has approximately 100 grams of protein in it per pound. You know what? We're animals. Go look at what a tender pork loin or a rare chicken or raw chicken breast have in them. Not cooked, but raw, because your muscle's raw, right? You know that your muscle tissue is very, very similar to pork. So ultra lean pork has about 100 grams per pound. So does chicken breast. We're very similar to them with those muscle tissue. That's what you're eating. Meat is muscle. So 100 grams. Well, that means in order to get that, you would need to make sure that you're eating enough additional protein to give you 100 grams of extra protein every month beyond what you need for metabolic functions and everything else. That's something that you got to factor in. Everybody needs protein to survive. It has nothing to do with building muscle. You still need protein even when you're losing muscle just to survive. You have metabolic functions and repair of your body, all through your body, that requires protein, or things will start breaking down in your body. In fact, you will die if you don't get any protein, right? Most of us know that. It's an essential nutrient. You have to have it for survival and for even certain metabolic functions and hormones, and those are going to take priority over building muscle. So you got to come up with an extra 100 grams of protein every month. Well, that comes to 3.3 grams a day. You round it up to 3.5. Well, some people say, well, the human body's not that efficient. You're going to lose protein through thermic effect and absorption and everything else. Okay, we'll double it then. 7 grams. 7 grams of protein. That's about an ounce of chicken breast. About an ounce. How much is an ounce of chicken breast? I don't know, about my 2 fingers there. That's about an ounce. That's what you would need to eat every day. And if we went with a 3.5, it would just be one finger size. Not very much, is it? Well, what about something crazy where people say, well, you know, I think I can gain more muscle than that. I can gain even more muscle than that. Okay, a pound a week. If you want to gain a pound of muscle a week, well, just multiply that times 4. Take that 3.5 times 4, we come to 14. The average chicken breast has way more than the average chicken breast has like 30 grams of protein in it. See how little that really is when you think about it? Now you go get a container of Greek yogurt. That whole container of Greek yogurt contains usually 80 or 90 grams. You need to eat 1 little cupful, like a coffee cup full of Greek yogurt. Half a chicken breast. You're covered. So, and people were going to say, well, you know, a pound a week isn't that crazy. Well, a pound a week is crazy. You do realize that if you gained a pound of muscle every week, that most of you from the day you started lifting, if you could do that drug-free, you would be bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger within 18 months from the day you walk into the gym with no steroids. How many people you see doing that drug-free? You only see guys doing that on drugs in 18 months. So, realistic here, guys. Again, you're not going to gain 50 pounds of muscle in your lifetime as a natural. Never going to happen. Most drug users don't even do that. So again, talking about stuff like a pound a week, not going to happen. So what's going on there? Why is that so little? And what people will say, well, what about the breaking down of tissue and everything? Well, we already covered that. You know, that's why the RDA is like 60 grams, but that's for people who don't work out. Now we can argue that people who work out are going to need a bit more protein just because of the protein degradation from their actual training. So, you know, there is protein breakdown that potentially happens from lifting weights and exercising and training hard. We know that. The RDA is 60, but if you want to say they need more, okay, fine, bump that to 80 or something. Just to handle the repair of the muscle tissue that you break down. I mean, 80 grams a day then. That's 20 over the RDA. You think you're really breaking down more than 80 calories of your muscle tissue every workout, of your actual muscle tissue? Think about that. How many calories do you think you burn during a workout? You know, maybe 100 lifting weights. That's about the same as jogging a mile for people who aren't over 200 pounds. Jogging a mile burns about 100 calories. You think you're burning more calories than jogging a mile with your weightlifting? Probably not. Where do you think it's coming from? You think it's really muscle being burned? No. So 20 grams of protein a day should more than sufficiently cover, the protein loss there. So, okay, fine, you bump it to 80. And then you want to gain muscle, fine, throw that extra 7 on there, 87. If you round it up to 90 grams of protein a day. You know how easy it is to eat 90 grams of protein a day? And the other thing that people are missing is they're not looking at the caloric intake, and they're not looking at what the experts really recommended. I mean the real experts, the people who train professional athletes, the dietitians for professional athletes. I'm going to show you their numbers in a minute. It's not the same as the fitness world recommends, who's sponsored by the supplement industry. All right, but I'm going to point out one other thing for you guys. What happens if you just eat more food? People say, what? Yeah, I mean, if you're burning protein for fuel from your training, you're burning protein for fuel. It's because you're eating more protein. Your body's breaking down more protein. Or if you're not eating enough calories, like if you're at, say, maintenance calories, you're slightly losing weight, yeah, you're going to break down more energy from your muscle tissue. You're going to burn a few more calories of protein from your muscle tissue. But how do you stop protein oxidation? What could you do to reduce the amount of protein that your body burns for fuel? Increase your carbs. If you added 100 calories of carbohydrates to your current diet, whatever your diet is, doesn't matter what your current diet is. If you added 100 calories from carbohydrates to your diet, did you know that your body will reduce the amount of protein it breaks down during exercise? Carbohydrates are actually protein sparing. So if you were eating enough protein already to hold on to the muscle tissue that you had, but you weren't gaining, if you were to add 100 calories, 25 grams of carbs a day to whatever you were eating, your body would break down less protein for fuel. Well, if you break down less protein for fuel, you now have more protein available to build muscle tissue. So actually, you don't even have to add any protein at all if you're already eating enough protein to maintain the muscle that you had and just weren't gaining. You just need to increase calories from anything that's protein sparing. It could be more protein or it could be more carbohydrates. You're going to break down less muscle tissue. Well, you only really need that 3.5 grams of extra protein a day. If you break down 3.5 less grams because you've eaten 25 grams more carbs, you're now eating enough protein to gain a pound of muscle a month. See how that works? So, accordingly, what do the experts recommend to top level athletes who are strength athletes? Even we're talking football players, rugby players, MMA fighters, everyone else. What do they recommend to them who are eating a high calorie diet who want to gain muscle? Anyone know? 1 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. All right. What if you weigh about 180 pounds? Everyone out there in the fitness world is going to tell you, oh, you need 1 to 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight, or even one gram per pound of body weight. They'll tell you you need 180 grams of protein to gain muscle. Yet the experts who coach football players, NFL players, pro boxers, pro MMA fighters, professional rugby players, again, sports dietitians, registered dietitians who coach top-level athletes, gold medal winning athletes, Super Bowl winners, where they tell them they need 1 to 1.6 per kilogram. So if you weigh about 180 pounds, according to these top experts who have no influence by the supplement industry, they're there to win their clients' $1 million contracts and gold medals. That's their job. Their job is not to sell supplements. Their job is to make these athletes win, and they know that carbohydrates generally fuel athletes better than protein does as a fuel source. So they have them eat enough to gain muscle. Well, what's your number? That means if you weigh 180 pounds, you need about 80 grams of protein as your minimum to gain muscle. Go back to the numbers I threw out for you guys, remember? 80 grams to 1.6 times 80. That's going to be, I don't know, another 55 on there, on top of the 80, so about 135. Just off the top of my head, 80 to 135 grams of protein, not 180, to gain muscle. That's assuming they're eating enough calories to actually gain muscle, because there's the trick. The caloric intake needs to be high enough for your scale weight to be going up slightly if you want to make significant gains in muscle. So, everyone seems to forget that these top experts put muscle mass on gold medal winning athletes, NFL players, Super Bowl winners, World League level athletes just fine with those sort of protein intake recommendations. So why can't people who lift weights do the same thing? Why can't normal people who aren't even pro athletes gain muscle on the same protein recommendations recommended to strength athletes and the top athletes in the world by the top experts? Again, stop buying into this hype. And I'm not saying if you want to eat more protein that it's wrong, it's fine. If you want to eat 200 grams of protein a day, that's fine. Some people that affects their budget. For some people that affects maybe the foods they enjoy eating. Not everyone wants to sit around eating 2 pounds of chicken every day. And they don't have to. It's just not necessary to get 80 to 135 grams of protein for a 180-pound man. But that's what you need. Again, assuming the rest of your diet is sufficient for you to recover from your training and actually put on the extra muscle weight that you're trying to gain. You don't even have to be gaining that fast. You can be gaining slowly. You can be gaining a pound a month. You'll be just fine. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.